Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Louis P.
And I'm Tommy Grayson.
And we're here to delve into the Halloween 2018 David Gordon Green trilogy.
Man, this is the moment that we've been waiting for because, we discussed the H2O timeline.
Mm-hmm.
We
The Rob
talked
Zombie
in length
timeline.
of the Rob Zombie franchise to very polarizing discussion. And now we are going to delve into I guess we should say, I can't even think of the word to describe the David Gordon Green trilogy other than just, wow. You know.
I think for me, the David Gordon Green trilogy, starting from the beginning, when they put out the trailer for Halloween 2018, I think the trailer's fantastic. Mm-hmm. I think the trailer for all three movies are great.
I think the cinematography in general, for all, let's get the positives. Positives for the franchise overall out of the way. The cinematography, it was made for Halloween fans by Halloween fans. Clearly, it wasn't something that needed to happen. You know what I mean? They didn't need to make another Halloween franchise. They wanted to. So,
and from my perspective, my positives, I said that I feel like from a narrative standpoint, the H2O timeline is the best. From a film production standpoint, as far as the whole Halloween franchise goes, the original compared to this, I think this trilogy, from a production standpoint, is the best. I feel like it's shot very well, produced very well. I feel like the atmosphere, the shots, I feel like it's done very well. And I feel like the performances, specifically of Jamie Lee Curtis, I'm gonna stick to the first one for now. I feel like Jamie Lee's performance is she gives a very good performance. Her acting is great. I don't really like the narrative, but the performance is great. And I do feel like the performance of Michael Myers by Mr. Courtney is fantastic.
in the first one.
Well, really, I like his performance in all of them to varying degrees. I don't feel like any problem I have with Michael Myers is not on anything he did wrong.
Okay,
in terms of performance.
I could agree with that.
So I will give him his credit for that. I do feel like with the first movie, now that Mr. Positive Pete is out the way.
Wait, we're talking negatives?
No, I'm not really going to talk negatives per se in this perspective, but I am going to say narratively is where it's uneven for me. That's my way to describe this trilogy. It's uneven. There's so much I do like, and there's so much that I don't love.
Let's just add a little bit of context. You and I actually, with the squad, it was a beautiful night in 2018 when the gang all trekked to the theater. It was, I think the phrase that we used when we first tried reviewing this was, if you've ever seen Scream 2, the scene when they're all in the theaters, getting ready to, it felt like that.
Great atmosphere.
It was great. It was, you could tell that people were coming to see Michael, and it was, I love walking into a movie theater, and I love seeing a packed theater full of, every type of, people. It was white folks, it was black folks, it was, you could tell that, Michael got that love from everybody. People love Mikey Mike. Bottom line, there's something about Michael Myers that, it makes people just want to go out to the theater. And this was the first time you had seen Michael in a theater in damn near 10 years. So it was like, the feeling was, it was just right. It was a cold Halloween night, cold October night, excuse me. And again, I was feeling real good. I got my buzz on and everything like that. Everyone was, feeling a little turned up and everything like that. Can't say so much for Mr. P right here, but
No, I had a good time. Listen,
no, I was talking about your intoxicating levels.
Yes, I know.
He was a good shot.
Yes.
Anyway, but we were in the zone for the movie. And it was to the production standpoint, it felt good. When you go to a theater and my fellow tokers out there know what I'm talking about. If you're feeling it in the theater and it's like everything is just wow. You feel like you're in an IMAX theater. It's like you got like you hear every detail of every footstep. It's like that's like Halloween 2018 to me was like it gave you this is what it's like to go and see a Halloween movie. Like the squad was back together. The squad literally was together, and the squad on like Laurie, Michael, like Loomis ain't there, but Sartain is there. Weird character. I'm not a fan of Sartain, but like it felt good. The atmosphere was good.
Now, let's get into this. My personal preference. I think Halloween 2018 for me is the best of the trilogy, the David Gordon Green trilogy.
I would agree.
Overall, I think it's the best film of that David Gordon Green trilogy. I think it is in a lot of ways, it is a very good follow-up to the original, in certain ways. And in certain ways, to me, it isn't. And the biggest reason why, to me, it isn't is narratively. See, my big issue with the Halloween 2018 movie is it asked me, as a Halloween fan, to ignore all the other Halloween movies I've ever seen except the first one. Just judge it as this is 40 years after the first movie. The first movie saw Michael Myers do what he did, get arrested and locked up for 40 years, and now we have this movie. So, I did say before that I feel like Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode character built her iconic nature in Halloween H2O because her trauma and her PTSD and her moment where she clashes with Michael felt earned. This movie essentially recreates that, but to me it does not feel as earned because in this timeline, that connection is not there the same way it is in that timeline. In this timeline, this random guy in a mask attacked you, killed a couple other people, and then was shot and arrested and locked up for 40 years. You see, I'm not gonna sit here and knock or question PTSD and how people deal with trauma, but from a narrative standpoint in this movie franchise, I just buy it more from someone who saw what this inhuman person survived in the first two Halloween movies and then moved away, changed her name, but in the back of her head was scared that her brother is going to one day come after her. I was invested and bought that a little more than in a timeline where this random guy who you've never met did what he did. You saw him get shot and arrested, and he has been locked up where you can literally go drive down and check up, yo, Michael's still in there? He's not causing nothing. No, he's just, okay, he's just chilling. You can literally keep tabs on where he's at. It doesn't hit the same. And then the whole time you have this paranoia of him getting out and coming after you. And then when he finally escapes, he just randomly just goes to house, just killing people. And when he finally gets to you, it's not because he was necessarily searching for you. It's because he was driven there by a doctor who wanted to see what he would do if he was face to face with you again. From a narrative standpoint, it's kind of weak to me. And I don't love that. I don't.
From a narrative standpoint, if I could reference Horror is Dead, somebody we've viewed his videos quite frequently. I could probably tell you his entire Halloween breakdown on Rob Zombie word for word. I listen to it so much. what he said in his Halloween 2018 prediction was that Halloween was losing its identity, and I think that big time, it was very evident in this movie that it was really losing its identity. Halloween was never a victim of circumstance, if that makes sense. You know, yes, a lot of things were very far-reaching, and you know, in both the H2O timeline, especially in the Thorn trilogy, actually, and absolutely, you could say things were, you know, contrived to a degree in, you know, the Rob Zombie Halloween, but never to a point where you had the therapist drive Michael to location and then get killed, basically. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was almost like, you know, and that kind of goes into, you know, one of my main critiques. I don't like the idea of a 60-year-old Michael Myers. I don't. You know, I think it, you know, a lot of people might have a problem with, you know, I guess, and I'm sorry for going back to Zombies Halloween, a lot of people might have had a problem with Michael Myers being 7 feet tall. I would rather Michael Myers be 7 feet tall and, you know, built like a wrestler than 60 years old. Because to me, the idea of Michael Myers, it's like, you know, being 60 years old, it's you're telling me that a guy sat for prison, you know, sat in prison for 40 years, you know, and he comes out and he's gonna move like he did, you know, that many years ago. First of all, you know, he doesn't look like and to your point earlier, you said that you liked the performance of James G. Courtney. Mm-hmm. You know, I thought he was fine, but in no way was it plausible to me that this dude would be this menace at that age. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was just it was a very, no pun intended, it was a very doctored, you know, situation. It felt like an experiment. That's what it was. The first Halloween was, you know, it felt like, you know, Loomis lost control of his patient and he was after his patient. That was the premise of the entire, you know, H2O timeline. Loomis was after his patient. Mm-hmm. The Rob Zombie, Loomis was assigned to a patient and wanted to try and save the patient, couldn't save the patient, and saw a reason to, you know, warn the world of evil and profit off of evil, because evil is driven, or power is driven by evil and greed. So in this timeline, it's literally, it changes every time. It's, you know, I can't even remember the tagline of the first one. You know, I just remember evil dies tonight and Halloween kills.
Well, see, it's funny because you mentioned the 60-year-old Michael Myers. That's another thing that's very uneven about this. While Michael Myers has always technically had an age, there wasn't really a narrative focus in the first movie to where I would focus on, well, is he 20, is he 30? It didn't matter. Like, you didn't really stress his age because that was not of vital importance. But when you're doing something that's 40 years later, and Jamie Lee, as a result, is going to be older, and you're bringing her back, you're going to have to kind of like point to like, yeah, Michael's age too. But they do this back and forth thing where in Halloween 2018, they treat Michael like he's human. And he's like mortal, like he's a dude that happened to survive certain things. Mm-hmm. And as you get further and further in the trilogy, they start to lose the human aspect and start to delve more into the, well, he's more than human, he's supernatural, he's this, and it just goes back to the point, the word of the day, uneven. Mm-hmm. And when you speak of these other characters, and this goes back to the narrative point, you have a movie trilogy that asks you to ignore movies it goes out of its way to recreate and bite from, and take ideas from. And one of the examples of that is Halloween 2018 just goes out of its way to just recreate scenes from the first Halloween and just switch. Now it's Jamie instead of now it's Laurie instead of Michael, looking here, and it's Laurie disappearing. And you have these moments for me with certain characters that I I don't care about the dad that gets peanut butter on his penis. I don't care
That's
about...
your favorite line of the whole movie.
I don't care about the mom who's literally named Karen and who talks about, oh, the world isn't evil. It's just full of rainbows.
Hold on. Can we segue back to Dad real quick? I just want to. The Halloween dads between William Forsythe's character in Halloween, Rob Zombie, you know, in the opening, I'm all broken up here, bitch. I can't work, and you know, crying shit, you know, just. And then this dude with the peanut butter on my
and
penis.
they all die.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, rightfully so. But it's like, you know, are you trying to tell us something, John Carpenter? Do you have something wrong with like fathers? Did your dad, like, was he just an awful like just shit talker around breakfast time? Did he just like wake up and was like, well, you know, how's it going, Johnny boy? I'd sure like to, you know, and.
But see, from a narrative standpoint, again, going into 2018 and going from 2018 to Kills. From a narrative standpoint, you're asking me to buy that Halloween Kills takes place on the same night as Halloween 2018.
Oh, see, that pissed me off.
So if I'm to believe that, so I'm to buy that.
How long was that fucking night? Like, what time did
Yes, it was a very long night.
It was. But so the sun was down. I mean, is it plausible for the sun to be down by, like, you know, as early as like I guess 6:30, 7 o'clock in October? You figured, you know, the dance and everything, you know, that's got.
Yeah, you had a dance going on.
Yeah.
They crammed a lot of shit. You had the boyfriend character who was dressed like when I think they were Bonnie and Clyde or whatever, but
reversed.
Yes, the reverse Bonnie and Clyde.
And
you had him
the phone in
yes, he threw the phone in the punch bowl or the pudding or whatever that was.
Yeah, might have been cheese or
essentially, something. He was just so annoyed with Allison and how he really didn't buy into this whole Michael Myers stuff. Neither one of them did. But when we get to Halloween Kills,
that's all forgotten.
It's like he's a totally different character, and he's like now all of a sudden Michael Myers has infected our family and this town with grief for 20 years.
Well, because by that point they turned the character into Lonnie's son. And
that's another add-in.
Yeah.
You just retcon a scene to make Lonnie seem more important to the plot in the beginning.
People loved that, you know, scene where they retconned it, where they used the Dr. Loomis thing. I'll be honest, I really didn't do it for me. If anything, I feel like it nothing else in the movie, you know, could do anything that made that scene matter. Like, you brought doctored footage of Dr. Loomis back to make Lonnie a main character.
And you do this to help the plot. And going back to my point, where I said this trilogy just takes ideas from another time, from other movies that ask you to forget.
And tells you to forget about.
Halloween 4 did the whole townspeople revolt against Michael Myers and townspeople are going out against... That plot line I saw done before. This one, they did it to a bigger degree, and the end result was stupid. And let me tell you why it was stupid. Because in this same night, when they're in the bar, and randomly they're just having like this 40-year anniversary of the death of how much Michael Myers has affected all these people. It just happens to be going on at the same time Michael Myers is killing people. It just happens to be there, led by Tommy. What's his name again?
Tommy Doyle.
Tommy Doyle. I'm about to say Tommy Jarvis.
Yo,
led by Tommy Doyle.
The most annoying character. Like you found a way to make the annoying little boy character in both movies, and he's an annoying adult. That's still
so it's a baby with him.
But like, what did he never grow out of being like the annoying
Evidently
kid
not.
that needed a babysitter?
Evidently not. But back to my point. So this is going on at a bar.
Dude looks like Tom Anderson.
Right? It's going on at the bar, and Michael Myers has escaped, along with another criminal that escaped this bus at the same time. So the townspeople come together because evil must die tonight. So the townspeople come together to go after Michael Myers, right? Now you want to do this little story, this little touch on mob mentality. So you have this sad scene where this little Danny DeVito looking dude who escaped with Michael is being chased because they think that that's Michael Myers. And then he jumps from the top of the building and falls splat. And then you have
his face melts.
And what does the cop say? Oh, now he's turning us into men. And Tommy says a line that's interesting to me. He says, well, how do we know it's not him? No one's ever seen his face. Let's rewind to Halloween 2018 for a second, where he was locked up in prison for 40 years without a mask. Because how did he get his mask back? Some random podcasters brought it to him because they said, oh, you feel the evil, Michael, you feel the evil. So he did not have his mask for 40 years.
Nope.
When they showed his footage, when they showed the two criminals escaped on the TV, he was not wearing a mask. He was maskless. So how do we not know? How do you not? If he affected your town with grief that bad, none of y'all went to go see when he was in prison?
And this wasn't like, guess what? The Rob Zombie movie where he was shown with a horrid collection of masks all over his room. Literally, he leaves only with the mask that is on his face. So it's literally given build-up to the fact of why he has his masks. In this timeline, it's literally said that he's in prison, in a public prison, by the way. He doesn't have his own room. Okay, like in the zombie movie, he's in a public prison.
He's standing in the middle of a checkerboard.
He's in a cell block, like every other prison.
Anyone could go visit him. The podcasters went to visit him. Anyone can go see him.
And
the audience, don't see his face, but he does not have a mask on. But they don't know what he looks like. But let's keep this going to the Strode family. Now, Laurie is laid up in the hospital bed. We've seen that before in the movie.
It seems to happen a lot in Halloween, too.
Yeah, we saw that happen.
Happened in the original timeline and the Rob Zombie remake.
So we see her in the hospital bed, and she is visited. Well, she gets a hospital bed partner, a cop who should have been dead, if we're being real, because he got stabbed in the neck with a very thick point. He should have been dead.
No, he was not stabbed in the side of his neck. He was stabbed in the front of the jugular, literally in the throat. Okay, if you are not given immediate critical care, you will die. You will flatline immediately.
And
I get this is horror, but like,
yes.
for fuck's sake, Halloween Kills. Like Halloween Kills is the perfect example of having its cake and eating it too, because
this trilogy is an example of that, because that's what they attempt to do.
Real quick, I want to give a shout out to my favorite kill in the entire entire trilogy, the Pop Smoke, the one that had the entire theater shook, except for you and I, who proceeded to laugh hysterically.
The gun kick kill.
I call it Pop Smoke because it's literally the chick's firing off the revolver, the glizzy, and it's way too big. She's armed way too big, and Michael just opens the door like he's stepping out to pump gas, and I'm laughing just thinking about it.
On that note, I forgot to mention some positives because I like to be positive. My positive for Halloween Kills is Michael Myers was a beast and was entertaining to watch.
For a 60-year-old man.
The kills in Halloween, it lives up to its name. Halloween Kills. If you're coming to just see kills,
Carnage
you
candy.
Get your money's worth with that.
The light tube kill, shout out to death matches, the light tube through the throat, and Big John and Little John.
Y'all like Big John and Little John. I like Big John and Little John. They were the two most likable characters in this entire movie. They were the only characters I actually gave a shit about surviving, aside from the old couple who were just flying planes in their house in the middle of the night when Michael Myers came to kill them. But I digress. But I will say...
Oh, and shouts out to Vicky in the first movie. She should have led the entire...
That's what I was about to say. I was about to say that. I will say there's a babysitter character in Halloween 2018 who should have been what Allison was essentially pushed to be and never really lived up to being, in my opinion.
Allison kept changing the entire movie. In the first one,
depending on when the plot needed her.
Yes, in the first one, she's a strong, independent, third-generation trauma victim. And, she doesn't need nobody to tell her what to do. In the second one, she's a a woman, you know, boss bitch, fucking.
She went head up with Michael Myers.
You know,
she said, "Stab me, kill me, do it, do it."
She's on her She-Hulk shit.
And I want you guys to remember the narrative that Michael Myers has affected this town with grief for 40 years. For when we get to the next movie, I just want you guys to remember that.
We're gonna pause on Allison. She goes from being strong, independent, third-generation trauma victim who don't need nobody to she-boss, girl bitch, She-Hulk character, and, you know, Megan Thee Stallion, so to say, like, fight me, to what she's eventually going to go on to be in Halloween Ends. But I digress. Let's keep the narrative going. Where were before I discussed the having its cake and eating it? What was your explanation for why it was stupid? He got stabbed in the neck.
Yes, he should have died, but they kept him alive. And in my opinion, okay, I like the actor. If you're gonna keep him alive, you're probably building up to something good in Halloween Ends, right? You're building up to something else because you kept him alive, so he should be a big part of Halloween Ends. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. But I want to just delve into the end of Halloween Kills, where you trapped Michael Myers. You know, you finally got him. You tricked him into coming, and you trapped him. You have him surrounded, and you proceed to attack him one by one. Somehow you get the drop on him. You get him down on the floor, and Tommy says to Karen, now mind you, Michael Myers has affected this town with grief and all of that. You get him on the ground, and Tommy says to Karen, go home, go be with Lori, we got this. Correct me if I'm wrong, people watching. If a madman like that attacked your mother 40 years ago, escaped from jail, and then attacked your whole family again, including about to kill your daughter before you saved her, would you just walk away as the townspeople take care of this? No, you wouldn't. You would want to see him die and probably have a hand in it. So she proceeds to stab him in the shoulder because that'll get the job done. So she proceeds to do that.
That's a common theme, you know, stabbing people in the shoulder.
Yes.
Scout did it in the first one when she said, I want to help you. I just don't know how. I just don't understand.
For some reason, people like to stab Michael Myers in the shoulder. No one likes to cut off limbs and do certain things that would actually work in certain situations.
Well, you know, because Mikey got that head tilt. He's like...
Yeah. So Michael proceeds to get up and beat the holy hell and murder the entire town that tried to, like half the town.
It looks like a Mortal Kombat X-ray.
Yes. So keep that in mind. Yes, this man murdered half the town and overpowered all these people. I want you to keep that in mind when we are going to discuss Halloween Ends.
Hold on. Because
just keep that in mind.
Because what does he do? He breaks in and he kills Karen.
Yes.
And then he
Well, he goes past some cops and he murders Karen. I felt nothing in that moment when Karen died. I could care less. I couldn't care less. I did not care for this character. Yeah, she had, to some people, she had her little badass gotcha moment in 2018. Didn't care for it. Sorry, didn't care for that. Didn't care for the happy Halloween, Michael. Didn't care for that either.
All of the good karma that they might have built up with 2018 was flushed right down the toilet with kills, in my opinion.
It was flushed down the toilet, but you still had some pieces floating that didn't go down all the way yet. And those pieces were Halloween Ends. And that is where the stinker comes into play.
No pun intended.
Pun intended. That is where the stinker comes into play. Because Halloween Ends is absolute, unequivocally dog shit.
So, I'm going to preface this by saying that right off the grip, my brother told me firsthand that he watched it on Peacock. First of all, they released it on Peacock, which we already knew that this movie was going to be trash. So my brother watched it on Peacock, told me, said, it's awful, it's the shits, there's no sex scenes, Michael doesn't show up for 50 minutes, don't go to the theater. I said, damn. Louis and I were thinking about going to the theater. He said, watch it at home on Peacock, it's free. And we did just that. I did what I proceeded to do every time. I got intoxicated and I sat from the comfort of my bed. This man sat in a chair right next to me, kicked back with the gangsta lean, and we proceeded to watch those pieces of shit float for what seems like ever into oblivion. And remember earlier in our review when we said that Halloween fans don't like when things are different? Yeah, this different, it was just, there was, if it would have just been called Haddonfield, it might have possibly had something to it, but they did what they probably should have done in the origin in Halloween 2018. They treated Michael Myers like a bitch, literally. So I'm gonna give this one to him because he can pretty much sum it up way better than I can.
Well, let me get into the positives of Halloween Ends, because you know I like to be positive.
It ended.
Yes, it had an ending. That was definitely a positive. And it was free. That was definitely a kind of a positive, because I still feel like I was ripped off.
Our time was taken from us.
Yeah, and we can't get that back. But those are definitely two positives of this. And I think that's where the positives end. So let's get into this movie. I will say that Halloween Ends is probably the worst experience I have had watching a Halloween movie. And it's not because it is poorly produced. Again, I don't have a problem with the production.
The cinematography and the production
has great production value.
The cast,
it has some fun kills. I wish it was Michael actually doing most of them, but it actually has some fun kills. But it does something that I want to really get into because it's something that has bothered me. Many people have said that Halloween Ends, they like it because it's different. Oh, you just didn't understand it. No. I'm tired of this different means good BS reason that people try to use to defend Halloween Ends, okay? You could have Michael Myers go to Disneyland and off people. That would be different. It wouldn't make it good, first of all. Second of all, no. The concepts that we see in this movie, much like this whole trilogy, we've seen in other movies. Michael transferring evil, we've seen that in part 4 of Halloween.
And in Rob Zombie's Halloween too.
Okay, technically speaking, yes. So we've seen that before. We have what we have not seen.
And the Cult of Thorn.
Yeah, that's Halloween 4. I'm counting that. Like he transfers his evil to Dr. Loomis in a version of Halloween 6, but he also transferred his evil to Jamie Lloyd in Halloween 4.
Yes, I was referring to 6.
Yeah. And guess what? In Halloween 4 it was actually better done, and it made sense because that was part of his bloodline. So that made sense.
Shout out to the White Horse. Even though I'm not a fan, I could kind of see the symbolism and where you were going with the motif, but it still was.
Now, back to this movie. Where do we start? Well, let's start with the fact that 40 minutes into this movie, we are watching it, and we're wondering if we're watching the correct movie because what's going on here? I did not give a shit about this Corey character that had never been seen before in this trilogy that I'm supposed to care about because he accidentally killed some annoying kid that locked him in a closet and he knocked him off a balcony. I chuckled at that scene. It was funny. The way the kid hit the floor, I laughed. It was not heartbreaking to me at all. Didn't care for it.
I thought that Corey looked like if you took the Daryl Sabara character from Rob Zombie's Halloween and aged him up a little bit. You know, the kid that Michael first kills with the branch.
Oh, the bully.
Yeah.
Could have been. That might have been a cool tie, and that would have made more storyline sense than anything else that happened in this movie, for being real.
I love just setting him up.
But anyway, let's go to Miss Laurie Strode. Now, here's one of my problems narratively with this movie. I personally believe the way now Laurie Strode is in this is how she should have been in Halloween 2018. Because you're asking me to believe that this character had all this trauma and she had all of this built up for 40 years by someone she did not know who attacked her and got locked up. And she was so scared and she was so, it affected her so much. It essentially ruined her relationship with her own family, with her kids, with her granddaughter and her daughter, to the point where she became Sarah Connor and she turned her house into a bomb. You're expecting me to believe that character was attacked again and almost killed, sent to the hospital, hospitalized for the entire second movie, which ended with her daughter being murdered at the hands of this person. And when we see her in this movie, she's baking and telling Allison how she needs to show grief her fucking tits. And she's not even locking her door anymore because she's over the trauma. Now, mind you, Michael Myers this time is not locked up in a cell where he can be accounted for. He escaped and no one knows where he's at. So you're telling me that this character who had all this paranoia now is just happy-go-lucky, free as a bird, doesn't care anymore?
And you're telling me that because it's not Halloween, that actually, it shouldn't fucking matter, and Michael is just not doing anything. But instead you're telling us exactly what he's doing and that he's not accounted for. And again, just thematically, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that, again, he escaped and then all of a sudden, like you said, Lori just fucking, she's happy-go-lucky. She's telling Allison to get out there. Speaking of which, Allison, I can't believe her fucking character in this movie. So she goes from independent, don't fuck with me, I gotta do my own thing in the first movie, to boss bitch, come on, kill me, motherfucker, in the second. So now all of a sudden, what would you use to describe her?
She essentially ends up blaming Lori for her death. The whole town blames Lori for all of the stuff that happened, as a matter of fact. Did you have scenes at the grocery store where, if you didn't antagonize Michael Myers, then he wouldn't... When was Lori antagonizing Michael? I thought Michael had affected this town with grief before. That's what you told me in the last movie. Now all of a sudden it's Lori's fault. Before, Lori was a loner that no one taught. She kept to herself. Now it's Lori's fault. This whole movie makes no sense. And I didn't even get to the biggest reason I don't like this movie. I didn't even get to Michael Myers himself. Where's Michael Myers at the moment? Michael Myers is in a sewer. What is he doing in the sewer?
Hey, he's not sleeping under his house like in Halloween Resurrection, that's for sure.
No, he's not.
He's not even eating animals like in any of the Halloween movies.
No, he's not. But you know what he is doing? He's standing in a wall, waiting for people to come near the sewer so he can kill them, because in this movie, apparently, Michael Myers needs to kill people to get strength. There's a scene where he kills a cop and almost has an orgasm. Like he gets the power up. That's stupid. But beyond just this new ability to kill people and get power, now he can also transfer his evil into other people. And I want to break down another narrative. Someone once said to me, well, he doesn't transfer his evil. He just saw the evil in Corey. Either explanation makes no sense. Either explanation is stupid. Michael never had disabilities in any of these other movies ever before. Now, all of a sudden, he can do it. And neither one makes sense. So let's go with the transferring evil part. He transferred his evil into Corey. Why? Oh, because his body was broken down. His body was breaking down, so he needed a new... He didn't keep the new body. So what was the point of that? Oh, okay, let's go with he saw the evil in Corey. Okay, he saw the evil in Corey. Now, if Michael Myers needs to kill to get power or to get his strength back, and he kills everyone who comes near the storm drain, Corey was bullied by some people, thrown off a bridge, landed in front of the storm drain. Michael dragged him in the sewer. Michael, who needs to kill to get strength, right? He dragged him in the sewer. He was nice enough to let him sleep it off, waited for him to wake up, then he choked him, and then he did what he needed to do. Tell me where this makes sense in any way, shape, or form. Why he would do that. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing in this movie makes sense. The fact that this movie exists doesn't make sense. Nothing about this movie makes sense. And all those people that crap on Halloween Resurrection,
all those Rob Zombie haters.
Well, I'm not even gonna get to the Rob Zombie thing, but because people that crap on Halloween Resurrection for the sole reason that they made Michael look like a punk or embarrassed Michael by having Busta Rhymes spin kick him out a window and electrocute his nuts. I need you to keep that same energy when you watch this high school kid that gets picked on by band crews take Michael Myers, the Shape, wrestle him to the ground, snatch his mask off, and walk out while Michael is laying there shivering. Tell me which is worse. You don't have to tell me which is worse, because that's worse, because that is terrible. And that is something you don't do. You don't embarrass the Shape like that. See, Buster may have spin kicked Michael and all that, but Buster was still struggling to beat Michael at the end of the day. And he just got lucky that the electrocution thing happened. This man embarrassingly beat Michael to the ground and snatched his mask after they go on a little killing spree together where they team up to kill some. So all of a sudden he essentially is Michael's sidekick for a scene, which is completely stupid. This movie did to the Halloween franchise what y'all say Halloween Resurrection did to the Halloween franchise. It killed it. It killed. Laurie Strode beat Michael Myers in more ways than one in this movie, because she really put the death nail in Michael Myers in this movie. The producers of this movie, y'all did a phenomenal job in really ending it in a way that makes someone like me say, you know what, I don't even need no more Michael. It was hard to get through this movie.
It was.
I will never watch this movie again. If you like it, I am happy for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you got some enjoyment out of it.
What was used to describe Allison in this movie? Because she was dating Corey, and then all of a sudden, Corey tried to pin his death on her or something like that.
What would I use to describe Allison in this one? The same thing I would use to describe her in all three movies. That's Allison to me. Could do without her.
So she's a nurse all of a sudden in 4 years? Yeah, it takes a lot longer than 4 years to get a nursing degree, I would think, especially if you were a trauma victim at that.
Well, see,
and then she's dating a creep like Corey.
She falls in love with Corey. It's essentially love at first sight. Listen, I feel like this would work so much better if Corey was actually in the first two movies and kind of involved in the friend group. Maybe
he came out of nowhere.
Yeah, like if you had that little bit of investedness with this character, it might have worked a little better. Or if you were going to do this story where you transfer this evil to Corey and he essentially carries on the legacy, if you will, it would have made more sense for him to actually survive. You know what I'm saying? And this movie, the way it ends, where Laurie Strode, for all you people that again, oh, Busta Rhymes beat up Michael Myers. Well, a 60-year-old Laurie Strode pinned Michael Myers to a refrigerator and just chopped him up into little bitty pieces.
They threw him in a garbage incinerator,
and had the whole town, this whole town that in this very movie was blaming Laurie Strode for this and just da-da-da. And even back in the first movie, didn't really care about Michael Myers until the second movie. But now this whole town just happened to come and do the walk with, we're all gonna witness this. This whole trilogy does not make any sense narratively at all. And it bothers me.
I think what they were trying to do was they were trying to appeal to Gen Z by making it about mob mentality and clout chasing and doing things to virtue signal, and at the end of the day the payoff was one of those visual ASMR, garbage disposal scenes that you can see Michael actually get shredded.
Well, see, that's a good point, and that actually is a great visual representation of this movie.
I literally just thought of that.
I'm not talking about the whole thing. I'm talking about the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
That part, the garbage part, is a very good representation of what this movie is. So that ending is very fitting, very much. And then, Laurie gets her happy ending. She meets up with the cop who should have died after getting stabbed in the neck and who had nothing to do in this movie at all. So it was kind of pointless for him to even survive in the first place. But Laurie gets her happy ending.
They showed up for a payday. What can you say?
And I don't blame them. I mean, hey, I'm happy everyone got paid and enjoyed their process.
Cinematography-wise, nothing was wrong with this franchise. But again, I share the same sentiment. Narratively, I laughed when I heard "Don't Fear the Reaper." My first Facebook post immediately was, "Everyone better respect Rob Zombie after this," because at the very least, his stuff chronologically stuck to one idea. It was a very objectively, horrifying idea to a lot of people, but at least it didn't go from literally cleaning the entire franchise and stripping it of everything what it's worth, turning a complete 180 on that in Halloween Kills and making it Carnage Candy and fucking just Evil Dies Tonight and Mom Mentality and all this, which Halloween had never been about, except for, you know, like you said, the fourth one. But even that, it was the town was not going insane trying to, you know, get to Michael. It was they were
select few group of people.
Yes, they were unified and they had one idea. It wasn't Evil Dies Tonight, Evil Dies Tonight. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, it was just, and then Halloween Ends. It kind of just like they realized. I feel like Halloween Ends, especially Kills and Ends, especially they were products of the pandemic. You know, they were hurt very much by the production of the pandemic. They very much, you know, they you could tell that something got lost in translation from start to finish with this franchise, and that's pretty much where I leave this franchise at. What might have once been a really fun, you know, rewatching Halloween 2018, I don't really think I could. I don't have the need to sit down and rewatch this franchise for a really long time. I don't think I'll ever watch Ends. Maybe one day, just on some like, you know, is it so bad it's good? But I think that maybe that needs to be like another like 5 or 10 years. But I don't think it's there yet. I think right now it's so bad it's bad, and it has no business, you know, existing bad. Again, we were literally in my room watching it, laughing at it, talking about how bad it was. So again, all of the goodwill that they built up with the first one, I kind of feel like they just pissed it all away with Ends. I feel like Kills really could have been either way with Kills, because it ended on such a cliffhanger. Like I will say the one thing that Kills did right, it stuck the cliffhanger ending. It really did.
Yeah.
It left you wanting that grand finale. Unfortunately, the grand finale completely under-delivered and was underwhelming and sucked. And you know, my biggest question is, what were you, like, production team, what were you thinking? Like in 2018, you know, in a world of YouTube, of all these reviews, of all of these, you know, things, I get it. You know, there's a difference between, you know, production staff and, you know, fandom and whatnot, but like, what went wrong? Where did it all get lost in translation? That's what I really want to know. If anything, I would want to know from someone like Jamie Lee Curtis, or, you know, whoever was working behind the scene, like, what went wrong? And more importantly, like, where do you guys think it went wrong?
Yeah, let us know. Comment down below and give us your opinion. Whether you like it, please tell me why you like it. Tell me what you think is good about it. I'll be happy to look at the comments and listen. And if you're on my boat, I mean, hey, let me know. Subscribe, like, and share.
Thanks for watching.